Everyone, I'm Ross Treelevin, and this is another Sprague Spotlight interview. Today, I'm with Dave Smith from our Tacoma office. Dave, introduce yourself to everyone at Sprague.
I'm Dave Smith. Been working for Sprague for just short of 34 years. About 3 months, I'll be 34 years. I've spent most of my time in the Olympia area. Um, yeah, and I guess about it.
Wow.
Can't think.
So, if you started in 1987, what was Sprague like in 1987?
A lot smaller. Um, it was we were using the radios in the trucks at that point. The two-way radios, I guess they call them.
That's right.
Uh,
Yeah.
and then we moved on to pagers. That we did that a little bit, and then we had those. What were they? The quick talk ones where you push a button like a walkie-talkie.
The Nextels.
Yeah, Nextels. Yeah, we went to that, and then after that we went to the cell phones. So yeah, I went through a few things on the communication part.
Now, those first radios you had, were those the CBs, or was that the next generation beyond the CBs?
I think they were the CBs. I didn't really get used to those. They were short time for me, and I was happy about it, because you had to call. I don't remember what the numbers were, but you had to use a call number and make sure nobody else was talking, so you didn't talk over them. That type of thing.
That's so awesome. I remember the pagers because we all had the number to call, like the collector, the 800 number. You get a message that would like scroll out.
Correct.
Yeah, those things were crazy.
Correct. Yeah.
I also remember the Nextel ones because I'd have one in my bag at school, and my dad would just start talking to me, and I'm like, no, I'm gonna get in trouble. But those are.
Get studying.
Yeah. All right. So, who was your boss then in 1987? Who was the guy that hired you?
Art Bader, your uncle.
Art Bader, Uncle
Good old
Art.
Artie. Yeah, good old Artie.
Wow. So
he was a good guy. He was a really good guy.
What was he like to work with?
Well, I worked a little bit with Art Jr.
Great.
They used to call him Spike. Worked with him a lot. I worked with, let me see, Mark. I don't remember his last name. Dave, another Dave. I don't remember his last name either. My favorite people to work with, though, I don't know. Al Derrick. I enjoyed working with Al.
Oh yeah, Al just retired last year. That's right. Yeah.
Correct. I didn't care actually. I wanted to learn. I didn't care who I worked with them. I think I'm a people person. I like to talk to people, but and I talk too much as I rattle on.
was Greg there already?
Oh yeah, I love working with Greg. Yeah, he wasn't the boss at the time, but yeah, he was there, and he became the boss after Art left. For me.
That's right. So. He was still earning his Spider-Man nickname, wasn't he, back then?
Correct.
Yeah.
And he was crazy too. He'd climb all over. I mean, he'd be on those big platforms down at the waterfront, and I was crawling, and he was walking around like he was on the ground. I couldn't believe
it. So did you know Jeff Miller then? Was he your boss? No, I guess Jeff Miller was never quite your boss then?
Jeff Miller was the manager of Seattle at that point when I first started.
All right.
And then he became district manager after a while.
That's
I believe is what it was.
I remember his office was in the Tacoma office at the time, and I couldn't remember how that worked. Now you must have known Grandpa then. If 1987, you must have met my grandpa back in the day.
I did. Very nice man. Met your grandmother also. Bob was, when I met him, we spoke earlier, but when I met him, he was the janitor. He wanted to be around, so he was sweeping floors, and he was telling people what to do, and yeah, funny guy, nice guy.
Awesome. That's awesome. Someday when my dad is retired, maybe he'll be sweeping floors too. I mean, he's still picking things up when he sees things that are in disarray. So
I wouldn't doubt that he would be doing the same thing. It's in his blood, and it's in your blood also. At some point, you'll be sweeping floors.
I think so. All right. So if we fast forward a few years, you and I started working together 1998. When did you first meet me?
I met you at the first or original, I don't know if it's original, but the first Sprague office in Tacoma, up on Tacoma Ave.
Yeah,
You came in and I was told that you were going to be riding with me and helping me do triennials when we were doing residential.
that's right.
And funny thing is, like I was saying to you earlier, a lot of people used to pitch you a little crap, and I used to say, hey, better be nice to that guy. He's going to be your boss one day.
I remember when Al was pitching me some crap about my dollar per hour needed to improve because I was quote unquote only doing triennials, and you were like, "Hey, leave him alone."
That's right. Matter of fact, I remember working with AJ too, and I told AJ he had to wear a respirator because if he was going to work with me, because I was kind of safety conscious when we were doing those perimeters. I don't know if I told you that or not. I don't remember, but I remember telling AJ that.
Yeah, no, I remember having the respirator with me as well, and we'd have to put those on. I remember you'd go one way, I'd go the other. We'd meet in the middle. So there was a lot
That's
of
right.
things that we would do back in the day. That
Yeah.
after you learn a little bit, and I liked being trained by people who knew so much. That was for sure.
Well, I don't know if I knew so much, but I knew a little, I guess.
Well, as an 18-year-old, as you know, because 18-year-olds, there's a lot in front of us that we don't know yet.
Correct. Correct. But we learn every day, don't we, Ross?
Absolutely right. Absolutely right. Tell me about an interesting story or something that you ran into at Sprague that was kind of interesting and unique.
Well, I remember in Raymond where I had to go to a rodent job, and it was in a house that didn't have any running water for quite some time. And I had to meet the fire department. I had to meet the police department, the health department. And when I got there, they told me I better wear a respirator, and they gave me some rubber bands for my pant legs and my wrists and all that. And it was the people that lived there were using buckets, I would say, to go to the bathroom.
Ooh. And then
they were taking it and pouring out behind their house on the grass, and obviously that's not cool. So that's why all those authorities were there, and it was a little eerie. And believe it or not, I didn't tell you this earlier, but believe it or not, the day I was there was Friday the 13th, and this house was on Elm Street. I swear to goodness, I am not lying. And it's one of the things I'll never forget.
That's incredible. How bad was the rodent problem?
Very bad. Very bad. Oof. I mean, you walked in, they had dogs, and you would thought you were walking on dirt inside there on the floor, and it wasn't dirt. It was dog poo and droppings and things and sort like that.
Yeah, I can't even imagine. That just sounds terrible. I'm glad you kept me out of that facility back, so many years ago. So,
yeah.
Thanks for handling that one on our behalf. Now, of course, you are one of the more experienced technicians in the Tacoma office. What's something that's remained the same over the years in the Tacoma office?
Something that's remained the same. I believe we still passionately deliver uncompromising service in the Tacoma office. I think it's important. I think that we don't always hear it. I know when I was here, we had a meeting and Alfie was there. He'd point at somebody and say, "What's the Sprague creed?" And you better know it. And we would let the new people know ahead of time, and they would, most of them would still mess it up a little bit. So yeah, that's one of the things I remember, and I think is a good thing.
Yeah, Sprague passionately delivers uncompromising service. 5 easy words to remember. They fit nicely into what our vision is for for what our service should be. I remember yelling that in office meetings, trying to be the loudest.
I believe I remember that, you doing that too. But you were probably yelling that at 5 years old too.
I probably was. I think that phrase did come out in the 80s sometime, and it's something that's been indoctrinated into the organization over the years. I do remember yelling that, especially in Tacoma meetings. That was so important to us. And We should do that more often.
I believe you're right. We should do that more often.
Well, Dave, thanks for joining me today on this. I really appreciate your time, and thanks for telling your story to everyone at Sprague.
Well, I want to say one more thing.
Go for it.
Everybody, I was lucky enough to work in an office in Olympia that we had for a couple years with the legend, and I think he's the legend, and that's Bob Andrews.
Oh,
I want everybody, and I think everybody that's dealt with Bob or worked with Bob feels the same way I do. And I just want to let everybody know I appreciate working with the man over the years.
Oh, love that guy. You can check out too. We did a long form interview of his, and so he's got a good story to tell. So everybody check that one out too. That's an awesome shout out to Bob Andrews, a wonderful human being.
Yes. So,
well, thank you, Dave. I really appreciate your time today.
All right. Well, you have a nice afternoon, and let me get back to work.
Sounds good. Sounds good.
Okay.
See you later.
Bye now. Take care.